The market was always loud, filled with the voices of hundreds of creatures from every corner of the galaxy. It was a place where things were bought and sold, and sometimes people too. Lyra sat on the hard ground in the center of it all, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. She wore simple clothes, torn and faded, and a metal collar around her neck. The chain attached to the collar kept her close to a tall post, and every time she tried to move, the metal would dig into her skin. Her pale blue skin looked even more strange under the bright yellow lights, and her long silver hair was tangled. Lyra was scared, tired, and hungry. She was only 19 years old and had spent most of her life as a slave. Today she was being sold again. Around her, buyers walked past, talking in strange languages. Some looked at her with cold eyes like she was just another object. Others whispered, curious about the girl with the silver eyes. Lyra heard them say things about her being rare and untouched. She understood just enough to know they were talking about her. She wished she could close her eyes and disappear, but the voices were everywhere. A large alien with thick arms and gray scales stood next to her, holding the end of her chain. He was her owner, and he had brought her here to sell to the highest bidder. He shouted to the crowd, promising that Lyra was healthy, smart, and would obey any order. Lyra kept her head down, not wanting to meet anyone's eyes. She knew better than to speak. In this place, silence was safer. In the middle of the market, a small stage was set up. Lyra watched as another slave, a young boy from a planet she did not know, was sold to a group of merchants. The boy cried as they led him away, and Lyra's heart hurt for him. She wanted to help, but she could not even help herself. She wondered if she would ever see kindness again. Suddenly the crowd moved, making way for a new arrival. A human male, maybe in his mid-20s, stepped into the circle. He was tall and strong, with brown hair and calm blue eyes. His clothes were simple, and he did not look rich like some of the other buyers. The market grew quiet for a moment. Humans were not common on this planet, and everyone stared at him. He walked with purpose. Not afraid of the stares or the noise, Jake had heard stories about the slave markets, but seeing it with his own eyes made his stomach twist. He hated the idea of people being sold like things. He was not here to buy anyone, but he was looking for a friend who had gone missing weeks ago. As he moved through the crowd, something caught his eye. He saw Lyra, sitting small and silent on the ground, her silver eyes shining even in the dirty market light. She looked lost and afraid, but also strangely hopeful. Jake stopped walking and looked right at her. The alien holding her chain tried to pull her forward, but Jake shook his head. "How much for her?" he asked, surprising himself with his own words. He did not plan to get involved, but seeing Lyra made him feel like he had to do something. The crowd started to whisper, some interested, some angry. The owner smiled, showing sharp teeth. "She is special," he said. "Not like the others. She is strong, she works hard, and she has never belonged to a human before." Jake looked at Lyra again. She stared at the ground, her hands shaking a little. He could see the bruises on her wrists and the way her shoulders slumped. He took a slow breath. "Name your price," Jake said. A tall alien with gold skin and bright yellow eyes stepped forward from the crowd. He wanted to buy Lyra too. He shouted a price higher than what the owner had asked. The bidding began, with others joining, and Jake did not back down. Each time someone raised the price, Jake raised his offer. The owner's smile grew wider. Lyra watched the bidding with wide eyes. She had never seen anyone fight for her before, not like this. She wondered why this human was trying so hard. Was he like the others, or was he different? The auction was fast and loud, but in the end, Jake was the winner. The owner laughed and handed Jake the end of the chain. "She is yours now," he said, counting his money. Jake did not answer. He knelt in front of Lyra, his voice soft. "You are safe now," he said. "I am not going to hurt you." Lyra looked up at him, unsure. She did not know if she could believe him. She had heard promises before, but they were always broken. Still, there was something kind in his eyes, something she wanted to trust. Jake stood and gently unlocked the chain from her collar. He helped her stand, careful not to touch her too much. Come with me, he said. Lyra hesitated but followed him, her legs weak from sitting so long. As they left the market, people stared. Some laughed, others looked angry. Jake ignored them. He kept Lyra close, moving quickly through the busy streets. Lyra tried to keep up, her heart racing. She was free from her chain, but she was still afraid. Anything could happen. They walked for a long time, away from the market and into quieter parts of the city. Jake found a small shop and bought Lyra some bread and water. She ate quickly, too hungry to be polite. Jake watched her, making sure no one followed them. When she finished eating, Lyra looked at him. "Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice soft and shaky. Jake smiled a little. "Because no one else would," he said. "You deserve to be free." Lyra did not know what to say. No one had ever told her she deserved anything good. She looked down at her hands, wondering if she could really trust this strange human. But, for the first time in a long time, she felt a small spark of hope. They found a quiet place to rest, hidden from the busy streets. Jake gave Lyra a blanket and let her sleep. He stayed awake, keeping watch. As she slept, Lyra dreamed of a world where she was not afraid. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight she was safe. The night in the quiet shelter felt strange for Lyra. She had never been alone with a human before, and she was not sure what to expect. The walls were old and the floor was hard, but for Lyra, it was better than being in chains. She slept deeply. For a few hours, her dreams soft and quiet for once. When she woke up, the sun was just rising, and Jake was still there, sitting by the door and keeping watch. He looked tired but calm, as if he was used to waiting through long nights. Lyra sat up slowly, wrapping the blanket around herself. She watched Jake for a moment, wondering if he would get angry that she had slept so much. But when he noticed she was awake, he just smiled and nodded. "You slept well," he said. "That's good. You need your strength." Lyra nodded and looked around. She was still afraid, but she felt less lost than before. Jake stood up and handed her a piece of fruit. Lyra took it and ate, her hands shaking a little. Jake did not rush her. He waited until she finished before he spoke again. "We can't stay here too long," Jake said. "Someone might come looking for you. Are you ready to go?" Lyra nodded, even though she was not sure where they would go. She trusted Jake more than anyone else she had met, but everything still felt new and strange. Jake picked up a small bag and helped her to her feet. They left the small shelter and stepped into the quiet morning streets. The city was waking up. Shops opened and people hurried to start their day. Jake and Lyra kept their heads down and walked quickly. Jake looked around, always checking for danger. Lyra stayed close to him, afraid of getting lost or being seen by someone who might want to take her back. After a while, they found a small market in a quiet part of the city. Jake bought some bread, fruit, and water, making sure Lyra had enough to eat. He was careful with his money, but he wanted her to feel safe. Lyra was surprised by his kindness. She watched him talk to the shopkeeper, using simple words so she could understand. No one had ever tried to include her in anything before. They sat together on a bench and ate breakfast. Lyra looked at the people around them, amazed by how free they all seemed. She wondered if she could ever be like them. Jake noticed her staring and smiled gently. "You can be free too," he said. "It just takes time. I'll help you." Lyra wanted to believe him. She tried to imagine a future where she was not afraid. For the first time, she let herself hope that things might change. After breakfast, Jake led Lyra through the city. They walked for hours, keeping away from busy places. Jake told her stories about Earth, about green trees and wide blue skies. Lyra listened closely, amazed by his words. She had never seen a tree before, or even real grass. Her planet was cold and full of stone, and she had lived in cages for most of her life. Jake was patient. He answered all her questions, even when she was afraid they were silly. He did not laugh at her or get angry. Instead, he showed her kindness every step of the way. Lyra started to trust him more with every hour they spent together. They reached the edge of the city by noon. Jake found a quiet place where Lyra could rest. He used some of his money to buy her new clothes. They were simple, but clean and soft. Lyra changed behind a screen, careful to hide her scars. She was not used to being treated like a person, and every act of kindness made her heart beat faster. Jake waited patiently. When she came out, he smiled and told her she looked nice. Lyra blushed and looked at the ground. She did not know how to accept compliments, but she liked the way he spoke to her. For a moment she almost forgot her fear. They sat together in the shade and talked about what to do next. Jake wanted to find a way off the planet, but he knew it would not be easy. The slave markets were watched by dangerous people, and there were rumors that the losing bidders wanted Lyra back. Jake was worried, but he did not show it. He tried to keep Lyra calm. "We have to be careful," he said. "But I promise I'll keep you safe," Lyra nodded. She believed him more every day. She did not know what would happen next, but she wanted to stay with Jake. He was the only person who had ever tried to help her without asking for something in return. They spent the afternoon walking in the quiet parts of the city. Jake taught Lyra how to read some human words, pointing out signs and helping her pronounce the letters. Lyra struggled at first, but Jake was patient. He never got angry or laughed at her mistakes. By the end of the day, Lyra could read a few simple words, and she felt proud of herself. As the sun started to set, Jake and Lyra looked for a place to sleep. They found an old building at the edge of the city, hidden by tall trees and thick vines. It was quiet and dark inside, but safe. Jake checked every room before letting Lyra come in. He made sure the doors were locked and the windows closed. Lyra curled up on a soft blanket Jake had found for her. She watched him as he made a small meal from the food they had bought. He handed her a piece of bread and sat next to her close, but not too close. Lyra felt safe with him, more than she had ever felt before. After they ate, Jake told her stories about his childhood on Earth. He talked about his family, his friends, and the adventures he had as a boy. Lyra listened, amazed by how different his life had been from hers. She asked questions, and Jake answered every one. He never made her feel silly or small. The night grew dark and quiet. Lyra felt tired but did not want to sleep. She was afraid the good moments would end. Jake noticed her worry and put a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay to sleep," he said. "I'll keep watch. No one will hurt you." Lyra nodded and closed her eyes. She slept deeply, her dreams filled with new places and gentle voices. For the first time she dreamed of a future where she was free, but outside, danger was never far away. In the city, people who had lost Lyra at the market were searching for her. They wanted her back, and they were willing to pay any price. Jake knew this, and he stayed awake most of the night, listening for trouble. He promised himself he would protect Lyra, no matter what it took. As the morning light crept in, Lyra woke to the sound of birds singing outside. She smiled and stretched, feeling stronger than before. Jake was still awake, looking out the window. He turned and smiled at her. "Ready for a new day?" he asked. Lyra nodded. She was ready. She was not just a slave anymore. She was starting to feel like a person again, and she wanted to see what the world could offer. Together they left the old building and stepped into the morning light, ready to face whatever came next. Lyra walked beside Jake as the city slowly woke up. She looked at everything, trying to remember every small detail. The strange flowers growing between the stones, the sound of water trickling down old pipes, the way the air felt cool and fresh. In the early hours, she kept glancing at Jake, making sure he was still there. With him, she felt safer than she ever had before. They walked down empty streets, avoiding busy areas. Jake explained that they had to be careful because the people who lost Lyra at the auction might come looking for her. Lyra listened closely. She did not want to go back to the market or ever wear a chain again. The thought made her heart beat faster with fear, but Jake's calm voice helped her stay brave. They stopped at a small shop. Jake asked Lyra to wait outside while he bought more food and supplies. Lyra sat on a bench watching the people who walked past. No one looked at her twice, and she was glad for that. She wrapped the new clothes around herself and tried to sit tall, like she belonged there. Jake came out with a small bag, smiling at her. He handed her a sweet fruit she had. Never tasted before. She took a careful bite and grinned as the juice ran down her chin. Jake laughed gently and wiped her face with a napkin. For a moment, Lyra felt almost normal. After eating, they kept moving toward the edge of the city. Jake said it would be safer outside the city walls where there were fewer people and less danger. Lyra was nervous, but she trusted him. She asked him more about Earth, about trees, rivers, and the sky. Jake told her stories about growing up, about running through fields and playing with his friends. Lyra listened closely, picturing a life so different from her own. At midday, they reached the edge of the city. The air smelled clean and sharp, and the noise of the market faded behind them. Lyra looked back only once, then focused on what was ahead. Jake found a quiet path through the woods that grew outside the city. The trees were tall, and the ground was soft with moss. Lyra stopped and stared at the green leaves above her. She had never seen a real tree before, only pictures in books. She reached out and touched the bark, smiling with wonder. Jake watched her and smiled too. "You can touch anything here. It's all yours to see," he said. Lyra's fingers ran over the rough surface. She felt a strange happiness she could not name. Jake picked up a stick and showed her how to draw shapes in the dirt. Lyra laughed and tried her best, even though her circles were not perfect. For a little while they played like children. Forgetting about the dangers behind them, they walked deeper into the woods until they found a small stream. Jake knelt by the water and cupped his hands, showing Lyra how to drink from the clear, cold stream. She copied him, laughing at the cool taste. She splashed water on her face and washed her hands, feeling cleaner than she had in days. Jake watched her with a gentle smile, happy to see her so alive. As the sun climbed higher, they found a safe place to rest. Jake made a small fire and cooked some simple food. Lyra watched him work, amazed at how easy he made things look. She wanted to help, so Jake taught her how to stack sticks and light a fire safely. Lyra felt proud of herself when the flames caught and warmed her hands. They ate together in silence, enjoying the peaceful sounds of the woods while they rested. Jake taught Lyra more words in English. He pointed at things: leaf, sky, bird, stone, and she repeated them until she got them right. Sometimes she laughed at her mistakes, and sometimes she grew quiet, remembering hard days from before. Jake never lost patience. He just waited and helped her try again. Later, Jake showed her how to climb a low hill to look at the world from above. Lyra climbed carefully, her legs still weak from the life she had lived before. At the top, she stared out at the wide green land and the far-off city. She breathed in the fresh air and felt hope in her chest. She wanted to remember this moment forever. As the afternoon passed, Jake told Lyra about his plan. He wanted to help her find her family, or at least take her somewhere she could live in peace. Lyra listened quietly, not sure if she could hope for so much. She had never known her real family. She was taken when she was just a small child, and her only memories were of cages and strange voices. Still, Jake's promise made her feel stronger. They decided to keep moving, staying away from the main roads. The planet was full of dangers, and Jake did not want anyone to find them. Lyra learned how to walk quietly and watch for signs of other people. She was a quick learner, and Jake praised her every time she got something right. Lyra felt proud and wanted to make Jake happy. Evening came quickly, and the woods grew dark. Jake found a place to camp where they could hide from the open. He made a bed from soft leaves and covered Lyra with a warm blanket. She curled up, feeling safe for the first time in a long while. Jake sat nearby, keeping watch. He talked softly, telling her stories about the stars and how humans used to wish on them. Lyra watched the sky, wondering if her family was out there somewhere, looking at the same stars. Just before she fell asleep, Lyra whispered, "Thank you, Jake." Her voice was soft, but Jake heard her. He smiled, happy to have helped her even a little. That night, while Lyra slept, Jake stayed awake and thought about the future. He knew they would have to leave the planet soon. There were too many people looking for Lyra, and he did not want to risk her being caught. He made plans in his head, thinking of ways to find a ship and escape. He would do whatever it took to Keep her safe. In the city, word was spreading about the missing slave girl and the human who had taken her. Angry voices filled the markets, and some of the losing bidders promised to find her no matter what. Groups of hired hunters began searching the outer parts of the city, asking questions and showing pictures. Danger was getting closer every hour, but in the woods, Lyra and Jake slept quietly, dreaming of a life where they would never have to run again. The sounds of the night were gentle, and the air was cool. Lyra dreamed of her family, of green lands and open skies. For the first time, she felt hope was possible, and she held on to that hope as she slept. Dawnlight slipped through the trees as Lyra and Jake packed their small camp. They had rested well, but danger was closer than ever. The sound of distant voices drifted through the forest, and Jake stood still, listening. "They are coming," he said softly. Lyra's heart raced as she looked at him. Jake grabbed her hand and led her deeper into the woods. They moved quickly and quietly, using every tree and bush to hide their path. Lyra felt fear, but she trusted Jake. He always knew what to do. After a short walk, they found a narrow cave hidden behind thick vines. Jake helped Lyra inside and closed the vines behind them. The cave was dark but safe. Lyra held a small lantern Jake had given her, and the soft light made gentle shadows on the walls. They waited in silence as the voices grew closer. Soon, they heard the snap of leaves and the crunch of boots on dirt. A group of 4 aliens entered the cave, their eyes searching the darkness. Jake stood protectively in front of Lyra. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice firm but calm. One of the aliens stepped forward. She was tall, with pale green skin and bright yellow eyes. Her name was Lily. Next to her was Noah, a strong alien with dark purple skin and a scar across his cheek. Behind them stood Zoe and Cole, 2 other escaped slaves. Lily spoke first. "We saw you at the market," she said. "The hunters are looking for the girl who escaped with a human. We want to help." Lyra looked at them in surprise. She had never met anyone who wanted to help her. Jake studied their faces, looking for a lie. He saw only kindness and hope. "We left our home to escape," Lily continued. "We know the dangers here. You can travel with us." "We have a plan to leave this world." Jake nodded slowly. He opened space for Lyra to stand closer to the new group. "We want to find her family," he said. "We want her to be free and safe." Noah smiled. "We can help. We know a hidden hangar outside the city. There is a small ship there. We can all go together." Lyra felt hope mixed with fear. She had never felt safe before, but the group's kindness warmed her heart. "Thank you," she whispered. Lily moved closer and gently removed Lyra's lantern. "Rest now," she said. "You will need your strength for the journey." They stayed in the cave until the voices faded away. Then Jake stood and led the group back toward the city edge. Lyra walked beside Zoe, who shared stories of her home planet. Cole walked behind, keeping watch. As they neared the city wall, they saw the hunters' camp. Fires glowed behind wooden barricades, and guards patrolled the walls. Noah pointed to a narrow gap under the wall where roots had shifted the stones. Lily went first, crawling through the gap. Jake helped Lyra follow, while Cole and Zoe waited to cover their exit. The gap led them into an abandoned yard on the other side of the wall. The city lights shone in the distance, and a cold wind blew. "This way," Noah said. They followed a hidden path that led through ruined buildings. The group moved quietly, avoiding open spaces. Lyra held Jake's hand, her stomach tight with worry. But Jake whispered, "Keep going, we are almost there." Finally, they reached the hidden hangar. It was a small building with a broken door. Lily and Noah worked together to fix the lock. Lyra watched as Jake stood guard, his eyes scanning the trees. When the door opened, they stepped inside. The hangar was dark and dusty, but a small ship sat by the far wall. It was old, but looked strong enough for a short trip. Noah climbed into the cockpit. He tested the controls, nodding as each system came online. Lily checked the fuel and engines, while Zoe and Cole prepared the cargo hold. Jake helped Lyra climb into the passenger seat. He fastened her seatbelt and held her hand. "I will not let anyone hurt you," he said softly. Lyra looked at him and nodded. She felt tears in her eyes, but smiled. She believed him. After a moment, Noah climbed back and closed the hatch. He started the engines, and the ship shook. Jake closed his eyes for a second, then opened them, ready. The ship lifted off with a low roar. The city and forest dropped away beneath them, and Lyra stared out at the stars. She felt freedom for. The first time, the ride was rough, but Noah guided the ship smoothly into space. Lily showed Lyra the control panel and how to use the lights. Zoe and Cole sat behind, sharing small rations of food as they flew away from the planet. Jake sat close to Lyra. He put his arm around her shoulders. She leaned against him, feeling safe. "We are on our way to a human colony," Jake said. "You will have a home there." Lyra looked at him. "Thank you," she said again. "For everything." Jake kissed her forehead. "You are not alone anymore." Lyra closed her eyes and rested her head on Jake's shoulder. She thought of her life as a slave and of the bright stars ahead. She felt hope and love, feelings she had never known. Outside the ship windows, the galaxy stretched wide and endless. Lyra knew her journey was only beginning, but she was not afraid. She had Jake and new friends by her side, and for the first time she smiled without fear. The ship hummed softly as it moved through space. Lyra sat by the small window, watching the stars. They looked like tiny diamonds scattered across a black cloth. She had never seen stars this close before. On her home planet, the sky was always covered with dark clouds. Now, she felt brave enough to imagine a free life among these shining lights. Jake sat beside her, studying a small map of the human colony they planned to reach. He pointed to a tiny green dot. "That is where we are going," he said. His eyes were calm and steady. Lyra trusted him completely. She reached out and held his hand. He gave her a small smile. Noah and Lily were in the cockpit, steering the ship through the asteroid belt that surrounded the planet. They worked together like they had done it many times before. Zoe and Cole sat across from Lyra, sharing stories about their lives before they became slaves. Lyra listened, amazed by their courage and kindness. As they passed the last asteroid, the ship's engines glowed brighter. They were on the edge of deep space now. Lyra felt her heart race. She looked at Jake. "Will they accept me?" she asked. Jake looked into her silver eyes. "Yes," he said. "They help anyone who needs shelter." "You will have a home," Lyra nodded. She wanted to believe him more than ever. Suddenly the ship's alarm rang. A red light flashed. Noah's voice came through the speaker. "We have company. 2 small fighters are approaching fast." Lyra's heart sank. She remembered the hunters who had chased them on the planet. But these were in space. She gripped Jake's hand tightly. He squeezed hers back. Lily jumped up and moved to help Noah. The ship rocked as the fighters fired at them. Zoe and Cole grabbed onto the seats. Lyra closed her eyes and prayed for safety. Jake stood in front of Lyra to protect her. He looked at the screens and shouted, "Noah, can we outrun them?" Noah shook his head. "They are faster. But if we head toward that nebula, we might lose them." He pointed to a glowing purple cloud on the map. Jake nodded. "Do it." Noah changed course, steering the ship toward the nebula. The fighters chased them into the glowing cloud. Inside the nebula, the ship trembled as if it was swallowed by storm clouds. The fighters' signals went weak. Lyra peeked out the window. The stars looked blurry and strange, like lights behind a fog. The fighters fired blindly. The ship shook with each hit, but it held together. After a tense minute, Noah found a clear path and flew out of the nebula. The fighters did not follow. Lyra opened her eyes and let out a breath she did not know she held. Zoe hugged Lyra's shoulder. "You are safe now," she said softly. Lyra smiled at her, grateful for her kindness. Jake sat down beside Lyra. He wiped sweat from his forehead. "That was close," he said. Lyra nodded. They all worked together to repair small damages. Lily patched a broken panel. Cole checked the fuel lines. Zoe and Lyra cleaned the windows. Jake stayed by Lyra, making sure she was okay. When the repairs were done, they continued their journey. The colony was still many hours away, but now they felt hopeful again. Lyra leaned her head on Jake's shoulder. He kissed her hair and held her close. As they flew, Lyra asked about the human colony. Jake told her stories of bright buildings, green parks, and friendly people. She closed her eyes, picturing a place where she could laugh and live freely. The ship beeped. Lily's voice came on the speaker. "We are entering the colony's space. We should appear on their radar soon." Jake helped Lyra to her feet. "Ready to land?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her heart beating fast. The ship's engines changed pitch as they descended through the colony's atmosphere. Lyra pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the soft hum of the ship. Jake held her other hand tightly. They landed on a smooth runway next to a small terminal. The door opened with a hiss. A group of humans and aliens waited for them, holding signs that welcomed newcomers. Lyra saw a tall human woman with kind eyes and a clipboard. She looked friendly. Jake stood and held out his hand. Lily and Noah stood behind him with Lyra. Zoe and Cole carried a small crate of supplies. The woman approached and smiled. "Welcome to Haven Colony. I am Dr. Nguyen. We heard you needed help." Jake nodded. "She is Lyra," he said, "and she is free now. We need shelter and a way to track her family." Dr. Nguyen looked at Lyra and smiled warmly. "You are safe here. We have a special program for refugees and former slaves. We will help you learn, grow, and heal." She paused and bowed her head respectfully. "You are welcome." Lyra felt tears in her eyes. No one had ever told her she was welcome. She looked at Jake. He smiled at her, and she felt his love. The group was led into the terminal. Zoe and Cole found a place to stay. Lily and Noah talked with officials about jobs and new lives. Jake and Lyra followed Dr. Nguyen to a quiet room where they could rest. A bed lay against one wall with clean sheets and soft pillows. A window looked out at a garden of bright flowers. Lyra gasped at the sight of so many colors. She had never seen flowers bloom in such beauty. Dr. Nguyen left them and promised to return soon. Jake sat on the bed and held Lyra's hand. She sat next to him, her eyes bright with hope. "For the first time," Lyra whispered, "I feel like I belong." Jake kissed her forehead. "You belong with me," he said softly, "and here too." They rested together, enjoying the quiet peace of the room. Outside, the colony prepared for a new day. Inside, Lyra dreamed of the future she had never dared imagine. Lyra woke early to the soft light shining through the window. She blinked, remembering where she was. The gentle hum of the colony filled her ears. She turned and saw Jake sleeping next to her. His face was calm and peaceful. She smiled and reached out to touch his hand. He woke and opened his eyes, returning her smile. "Good morning," he whispered. Lyra sat up. She felt stronger than she had in a long time. The pain from her old wounds was almost gone. She dressed in the clean clothes provided by the colony. They fit her well and were comfortable. She looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall. She looked like a free person for the first time. Jake helped her stand and led her to the door. Outside the room, the hallway was quiet. They walked hand in hand toward the mess hall. Lyra was hungry for warm food and coffee, a drink she had never tasted before. Jake laughed at her excitement, and she giggled back. In the mess hall, rows of tables were filled with people. Dr. Nguyen waved them over and led them to a table near a window. Lyra saw green trees and colorful flowers outside. She felt tears of happiness and surprise. They ate in silence for a few moments, enjoying the new tastes. Lyra had eggs, toast, and a glass of milk. She savored each bite, thanking Jake with her eyes. He nodded, happy to see her eat well. To breakfast, Dr. Nguyen introduced Lyra and Jake to other residents. There was Ravi, a young mechanic who fixed ships. He offered to teach Lyra how to repair small machines. There was Maria, a teacher who helped children learn. She said Lyra could help her teach the colony's young students. Lyra felt nervous but nodded at the chance. Jake spoke with docking officers about a ship that could carry them home if they found Lyra's family planet. He asked for maps and star charts. The officers were kind and gave him what he needed. Lyra watched him talk and felt proud. Later, Jake took Lyra to a quiet garden courtyard. The air smelled of fresh grass and flowers. Birds chirped in the trees. Jake sat on a bench and pulled Lyra close. "I want you to do what makes you happy," he said. "If you want to learn to fix ships or teach children, you can." Lyra thought for a moment. She had never learned to do anything for herself. Now she could choose. She looked at the garden, then back at Jake. "I want to learn to teach," she said softly. "I want to help children like me one day." Jake smiled and kissed her forehead. "You will be a great teacher," he said. That afternoon, Maria welcomed Lyra into her classroom. Small alien children sat at tiny desks, listening to a story. When Maria introduced Lyra, the children clapped. Lyra felt shy but smiled. She sat on a small chair and began telling the story Maria had chosen. Her voice was soft, but the children listened closely. She felt warmth in her chest. Teaching felt right. After class, Maria praised Lyra. "You have a gift," she said. "The children love you." "I am glad you are here." Lyra's heart swelled with pride. She thanked Maria and promised to return every day. Meanwhile, Jake spent his time studying star charts and talking to pilots. He learned the routes between planets. He found a passage that could lead them to Lyra's home system, but it was long and dangerous. Jake knew it would take time and resources. He decided to save money by taking odd jobs in the colony. He fixed small ships and helped with deliveries. Lyra visited him after class and brought him food. They sat together under the stars, talking about their plans. A week passed. Lyra and Jake grew stronger together. Lyra learned more words and taught herself to read in both human and alien languages. She helped Dr. Nguyen with translation work. Jake made friends with other mechanics and earned credits for their journey. One evening, as they walked back to their room, Lyra saw a message board outside the docking office. She paused to read a note. "Missing, Lyra of planet Zathura. Lost. Seen in city slums, believed lost or escaped. If found, contact authorities." Her heart skipped. She turned to Jake, fearing the note might be about her. Jake pulled her close. He read the note and smiled gently. "That was posted before you left," he said. "They think you are lost, but you are here, safe." Lyra nodded but felt a small ache. She did not want to be missing. She wanted to be known. Jake held her hand. "We will let them know you are safe and happy," he said. The next day, they visited the authorities. Jake spoke on Lyra's behalf, showing her new ID and papers, proving her safe arrival. The officials updated their records. Lyra felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had a name now and a place in the colony. Life settled into a new rhythm. Lyra taught in the classroom each morning and helped with translation in the afternoons. Jake worked at the docking bay and met her for dinner. They shared stories and laughter. Lyra felt happiness she had never known. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise in the sky, Lyra turned to Jake. "Thank you for everything," she said. "For saving me, for giving me a home." Jake kissed her hand. "I only did what was right," he said. "You deserve freedom and love." Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. She looked at the moons and thought of her home planet so far away. She knew she would find her family someday. But for now, she was exactly where she belonged. As the night grew quiet, Lyra and Jake walked back to their room. They held hands and whispered dreams for the future. Lyra felt hope like a bright flame in her heart. She closed her eyes and smiled. Her journey had been long and hard. She had been a slave, lost in a cruel market, but now she was free. She had a home, friends, and the man who loved her. She was Lyra, the girl who was sold until he came for her and who found a new life among the stars.